What if the key to unlocking exponential real estate wealth isn't in the glossy brochures of booming metropolises, but in the forgotten corners everyone else has written off? While the world looks at high-rises, we look at the margins. Imagine driving through a town with boarded-up storefronts, empty schools, and for-sale signs faded by years of sun, only to discover it's sitting on the exact geographic, economic, and demographic fault line where the next 100x property explosion will ignite. This is the art of seeing what is invisible to the crowd. This isn't fantasy, it's strategy. While investors chase hype in saturated markets, the truly wealthy quietly study what I call real estate dead zones, places abandoned by conventional wisdom but primed for rebirth by forces most overlook. They aren't just looking for land, they're looking for the signals of a coming tectonic shift. These aren't just cheap properties, they're undervalued ecosystems waiting for a single catalyst to flip their entire value proposition. The secret lies in seeing beyond surface decay and recognizing the hidden architecture of renewal that is already being laid underground and in the cloud. Whether it's a new energy corridor slicing through a depopulated county, a climate-resilient watershed attracting forward-thinking developers, or a dormant rail line being reactivated for AI-driven logistics. These catalysts are the sparks that turn blight into boomtowns. Today, we decode them all. In this extended masterclass, we'll expose how to identify these zones before the crowd arrives, decode the signals that separate genuine opportunity from permanent blight, and position yourself to capture generational wealth where others see only risk. Welcome to the shadows of the market. The concept of a dead zone is often misunderstood. It's not merely a place with low property values, it's a location that has fallen out of sync with the dominant economic narrative of its era. It is a temporal misalignment, where the past has left, but the future hasn't yet been announced. Think of Detroit in the 1980s, written off as a relic of industrial collapse. The narrative said manufacturing was dead, and thus, the land was worthless. But the land didn't change. The global economy's requirements did. For decades, it sat in the dead zone, waiting for a new story. Once automotive innovation clusters and autonomous vehicle testing redefined the city's value, those who bought in the dead era saw astronomical returns. They didn't buy a factory, they bought a future hub. They trusted the latent infrastructure of a city built for scale over the noise of the nightly news. Consider Lisbon's historic center in the early 2000s. It was deemed too old, too inaccessible for modern commerce. Then came the digital nomad migration and EU incentives. Suddenly, old meant authentic and valuable. The dead zone was resurrected by a shift in lifestyle preferences. Dead zones thrive in periods of transition because they offer one irreplaceable asset: optionality at a discount. When mainstream capital flees, land becomes abundant, regulations relax, and local communities become open to bold ideas. This is the fertile soil for exponential growth. This creates a vacuum that, when filled by the right catalyst, triggers explosive compounding. The critical skill isn't finding cheap land, it's identifying which dead zones possess the latent infrastructure to be resurrected. You are looking for the bones of a giant that is just waking up. For instance, many Rust Belt towns dismissed as obsolete are now being courted for data centers. Why? Because they have cool climates, existing high-voltage power grids, and fiber optic backbones laid during the telecom boom. The obsolete town actually holds the nervous system of the AI age. Similarly, rural counties in Portugal or Bulgaria are becoming hubs for remote work enclaves backed by EU digital sovereignty grants. The pattern is consistent. A macro shift revalues a previously ignored attribute. Youth exodus is replaced by global talent seeking peace and connectivity. Watch for dormant rail lines. In the era of AI-driven logistics and autonomous freight, these old corridors are being reactivated. A town that lost its meaning when the steam engine left is suddenly the most efficient node for a swarm of electric cargo pods. Infrastructure never truly dies, it just waits. To spot these opportunities early, you must learn to read the footprints of change before they become foot traffic. You must look where the herd isn't looking. Start with the non-obvious indicators that signal institutional confidence before the public sees it. Watch for utility upgrades in declining areas. Sudden spikes in commercial electricity hookups or municipal budgets allocating massive funds for broadband expansion in depopulated regions are the first signals. These are the life support systems being installed before the patient wakes up. Visit county assessor websites, not to look at prices, but to see who's buying. Are sovereign wealth funds quietly acquiring large tracts? Are university research arms leasing old warehouses? These are the canaries in the coal mine. They move in silence, years before the boom. Next, overlay climate vulnerability maps with migration projections. Areas currently deemed too cold or too remote may soon be prized as climate havens. Northern Minnesota, Canada's prairie provinces, and parts of Scandinavia are already seeing institutional interest for this very reason. Resilience is the new luxury. Finally, watch for policy inflection points. The U.S. Inflation Reduction Act, the EU Green Deal, and national reshoring initiatives are pouring trillions into regions specifically chosen for resilience. Many of these were economic dead zones just 5 years ago. Government policy is the ultimate market mover. The goal is to arrive not at the bottom of the market, but at the moment the narrative begins to shift. That's when fear still dominates, prices remain suppressed, and your window for asymmetric upside is widest. You want to be the one selling the new reality to the latecomers. Your action plan starts with verification. Don't just follow a map, check the physical reality. Is the fiber in the ground? Is the power station active? Is the sovereign fund actually building or just holding? Real wealth is built on hard data, not just speculative hope. This requires patience, yes, but more than that, it demands the courage to trust your analysis over the herd's despair. You are looking for the rebirth of ecosystems, not just the purchase of land. You are an architect of the next era of value. This is how fortunes are forged. Why are sovereign wealth funds buying in nowhere? Because they have 50-year horizons. They see the energy corridors and the climate shifts decades before they hit the headlines. If you track their acquisitions, you track the future. They are the market's secret cartographers. Water security is the next gold. Regions with massive freshwater reserves, previously ignored due to isolation, are being revalued as climate-resilient hubs. The dead zone isn't dead, it's simply waiting for the world to catch up to its value. Water is the ultimate defensive asset. This is the resilience premium. In a world of increasing volatility, the most valuable assets are those that are stable, secure, and disconnected from traditional risk zones. This is the heart of the dead zone strategy. Stability is the greatest contrarian play. Finally, define your exit. Are you holding for the 50-year sovereign fund boom or the 5-year digital nomad shift? The dead zone strategy works because it offers multiple exit paths. You aren't just buying land, you're buying a future that hasn't happened yet. Choose your horizon wisely. The path to generational wealth isn't found by following the crowd. It's found by leading it to the places it hasn't discovered yet. Trust your analysis, find your dead zone, and prepare for the shift. The future belongs to those who see it in the shadows first.
Having identified the framework for spotting dead zones, the next step is validating them against 3 filters that separate temporary bargains from true 100x candidates. First, assess structural viability. Does the location have enduring natural or infrastructural advantages that no amount of economic decline can erase? Access to fresh water, stable bedrock for construction, or proximity to major transportation arteries are examples. A town dying because its factory closed may recover. A town built on a sinking aquifer likely won't. Second, evaluate catalyst alignment. Is there a clear, funded, and irreversible trend that directly benefits this specific location? Vague hopes of revitalization aren't enough. Look for signed contracts, like a green hydrogen plant breaking ground, a federal grant for high-speed rail, or a tech giant leasing a former mall for server farms. Third, gauge community receptivity. Are locals open to change or entrenched in resistance? The most promising dead zones often have a core of young entrepreneurs, returning diaspora, or civic leaders actively courting reinvention. Without this social substrate, even the best external catalyst can stall. Armed with this filter, let's examine real-world frontiers, showing early signs of resurrection. Consider northern New Mexico. Long overlooked outside Santa Fe and Taos, its high desert plateau is now a magnet for space tech firms needing vast, secure land near launch corridors. Property here, once valued only for ranching, is being reassessed as mission-critical terrestrial infrastructure. Or look at the Baltic states, particularly Estonia and Latvia, where Cold War-era military bases are being converted into cybersecurity campuses and data embassies, leveraging their digital-first governance and NATO-aligned stability. Even within hyper-expensive markets like California, micro-dead zones exist, former agricultural towns in the Central Valley now being rezoned for solar farms and battery storage, turning dusty fields into nodes of the energy transition. The common thread? Each location was written off for reasons tied to the last economic cycle, but possesses attributes perfectly suited to the next one. Execution in these zones demands a different playbook than traditional real estate. Forget flipping houses. Think placemaking. Your first purchase shouldn't just be an asset, it should be an anchor. Buy a small commercial lot and build a co-working space. Lease a vacant school and turn it into a skills academy for green jobs. Your presence signals confidence, attracts like-minded pioneers, and creates a feedback loop of value creation that pure speculation cannot replicate. Partner with local governments on pilot projects. They'll often provide tax abatements or streamlined permitting for ventures that promise jobs. Use decentralized finance tools to pool capital with other forward-looking investors, reducing individual risk while amplifying collective impact. Most importantly, time your exit not with market euphoria, but with institutional validation. The moment pension funds and REITs start issuing reports on the area. That's your signal that the dead zone has officially come alive and your asymmetric bet has paid off. This approach isn't for the impatient or the faint of heart. It requires deep research, boots-on-the-ground verification, and the discipline to ignore short-term noise. But for those willing to look where others refuse to see, the rewards are extraordinary. History's greatest real estate fortunes weren't made in the gold rush. They were made by the merchants who sold shovels. And even more so by those who bought land in Sacramento before the first prospector arrived. Today's dead zones are tomorrow's epicenters, and the window to act is now. If this revelation has shifted your perspective on where and how to build wealth through property, don't keep it to yourself. Smash that like button. It fuels this channel's mission to uncover hidden truths about money. Share this with someone tired of competing in overcrowded markets. And subscribe to 100x Wealth for more unorthodox strategies that turn overlooked realities into undeniable opportunity. Hit the notification bell so you never miss the next insight that could unlock your financial future.